Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at, ladies and gents. I am Kura Isagami, your resident tinkerer and meta-rodder, and this is the Medabots News Network, bringing you a special coverage I kind of felt needed to address a few points regarding the upcoming release of Medabots Survivors globally. Now, a lot of folks were very, very hyped about it, because obviously this is the first time that we've seen a Medabots gang in 23 years, being completely honest. We have not seen the Yellow Beetle Boy and all his battle buddies in 23 years here in the Western community. So, needless to say, the announcement and reveal of a global pre-registration and release for Meta Survivor Global was huge. But despite that, there have been a level of, I don't want to say controversy is the exact term to use, but there were some potential concerns that have been mentioned, not just with the reveal of the game, with it being the first official release into the Western community after 23 years, but also just with the game as a whole, since the first anniversary of the Japanese version of the game is coming up here very soon. So I basically just wanted to take a few minutes, and hopefully I won't take too terribly long, to kind of go over some points that I believe are most pertinent in regards to overall concerns with the game, overall pros and cons, some things that I've noticed and observed, and even some comments from friends of mine over in Japan that still play the game and report on it, that they feel probably needs to be addressed or looked at before the global version is released, in hopes that it will actually improve the overall quality of life and make the game more readily accepted by Western community when it does come out. So let me go ahead and slide over here real quick, just so I'm out of the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and start up with here. Okay, so I'm going to kind of just review some things. I kind of went over this originally in my Medabots Survivor initial reveal stream a couple months ago, back in December of 2025. So I'm going to kind of rehash that a little bit and kind of speed through it first. But just to kind of give you guys the TLDR of that, a global release for Medabots Survivors with the name was announced about a week after Medarot Day 2025, and that entire timeline of events was crazy. We had the announcement of the official trademark lawsuit ending permanently and done forevermore, starting about a week before Medarot Day, about November 28th. On November 28th, obviously, is Medarot Day, so we had a really big celebration with that. It was fairly low-key, but still very exciting all the same. Went over it and even went over some of the Project Rising Beetle Ori meta winners and such. It was very, very good time. And then about a week after that, they officially announced the global release or pre-registration for the release of Medabots Survivors coming to iOS and Play Store. So it was a crazy 2 weeks when that first came out. They announced a little bit later that the release date is going to be roughly about the end of February 2026. So at this time of recording, on February 9th, 2026, that's only less than 3 weeks out. So I'm very excited for it. A lot of other people are, and it's going to be very big all the same. Like I said, because it has been 23 years since we have seen Medabots under that name here in the West, and we're all excited for it. But moving right along here, again, just kind of keeping things going, I do want to introduce you to the new cast characters. So if you ended up missing that stream, but want to kind of have an early idea of what to expect, there are going to be a couple new characters that are going to onboard us and introduce us to reintroduce us to Medabots when Meta Survivor does drop. And that first of which is Suzuno, which is the new, for lack of a better term, the professor that will be introducing us to how Meta Survivor works and kind of being that new formal reintroduction of Medabots back into the West. But to explain briefly, Suzuno is a self-proclaimed genius with an insane love for Medabots. Formerly a researcher, she left the lab to pursue private studies with her partner, Jasper. Despite her vast knowledge of Medabots, her practice and row battle is terrible. So, needless to say, she's got the knowledge, but not quite the experience to go with it. And it's also worth noting, with my little comment here, that she also developed Elfas Soma and Vularis Mondi, the KBT and KWG star mascots for Meta Survivor, that will be introducing to us with the game. Jasper, on the other hand, is a reliable Medabot who serves as Suzuno's partner. He is serious, intelligent, and dependable. He supports Suzuno's studies from behind the scenes. He is designed as a working dog motif, which means that, like Suzuno, he emphasizes practicality and lacks practice in row battles. So essentially, he's happy to teach you everything he knows from book learning, much like Suzuno will, but if you were to challenge him to a fight, he would very kindly refuse and turn you down. Jasper has also gone on record saying that he works part-time to support and fund Suzuno's private research, and I made a comment there asking just what kind of a part-time job does he have, because clearly he knows something that a lot of us in today's current economy do not, but I do currently digress. With items that are in the game, it's going to be very straightforward, fairly similar to any other Survivors type game that you've played. Vampire Survivors, Hollow Cure, as some examples. So it's going to be very simple. You're going to have a handful of skills, and then you're going to have a handful of support items which will coincide and synergize with skills to a certain point. Fairly straightforward. You have your overcharger for damage for overall damage dealt, energy oil for heal over time, solid shield for reducing damage, black cards earn your amount of coins earned at the end of the run, mobile radiators for your cooldown plus, propulsion device for your movement speed, bulletproof tiles boost your max HP, learning discs are your EXP boosts, bullet oil for your projectile speed, power tanks for your projectile size, and the mini magnet for your crystal absorption range. So, like I said, it is fairly self-explanatory, and the game will explain that certain items will be required to ascend certain Medabots skills to their evolved state, where they are much more potent and much more powerful than they are when you first collect them. And naturally, all of the support items will also synergize with each other, and more or less any kind of build that you choose to go in with. So there's lots of different ways to go about it, lots of different skill types and support items that can be mixed and matched together to kind of fit what you feel you need for the run. And given that it is a roguelike, it is going to be no two runs will be the same, and your shuffles will be fairly different. But I am kind of getting ahead of myself on that. That basically covers a general overview of the game and what to expect when it does launch closer to the end of this month. Now, what I do want to go over, though, and I've seen comments both for the pros and the cons as far as the game is concerned, some of which are very legitimate concerns over the game. Other ones I feel are just kind of trying to blow smoke because it's a Survivor-type game and people think it's very cheap. But I will address all of them fairly and equally through this and just kind of give you the TLDR, the summary of the points that I've seen and that I myself personally feel having played the Japanese version. But overall, the game pros are fairly straightforward. The game is very easy to learn and pick up. It does not require a lot of head knowledge. It is very simple and easy to explain and understand. If you have played any Survivor-type game or any roguelike game, you can pick up Medabots Survivor. I can tell you that with 110% confidence. You do not need a lot of heavy knowledge investment to play. It is simply pick it up, you start a run, you learn as you go. It is extremely simple. That being said, it goes into my second point of requiring very little dedicated investment. So ultimately, you can choose to play free to play if you want, or you can whale and play pay to play. It's completely up to you, but the game itself is fairly synergetic unto itself on paper. So it's very easy to pick up, it's very easy to learn, very easy to play, and it's a very nice little thing overall, and kind of part and parcel with the Survivor-type game mechanic. It can also be picked up and put down very easily. Ultimately, it is a time killer type game. This really isn't something that you're going to be playing constantly throughout the day like you would most other games. Say Medabots S, FGO, Clash of Clans, things that would require very heavy mental investment in play. Medabots Survivors does not require that. So it's very, very nice in that respect. You can play it while you're on the bus, if you're on a family road trip going down the highway and you're bored. You can play it at home if you're not doing anything. Very easy to pick up and put down. The other really big point that they mentioned with this game are the huge name artists that have been weighing in to create designs for this. We're talking B-Cub, Naohiro Washio, several different names of several different series, both mecha and otherwise. We even had Kei Suwabi, who designed Shadow Armor you saw in that trailer. Yoshizaki Mine from Kemono Friends, who designed Koga Sanjo. Lots of very big names over the mangaka animation mecha series, so very big names that were brought in and weighed in to create designs, and honestly, some of those designs really were knocked out of the park, and I'm shocked at just how many friends Medabots has made over the just this last year alone with all these artists that weighed in. And the gacha pity, even though it is a gacha game, I know I'm gonna hear you guys in the comments right now, "Ugh, Kura, it's a gacha game, it's terrible already." Hear me out, okay? I get it, I understand, but unfortunately gachas are kind of the big thing these days with mobile developers, so it is kind of something we have to live with. But the nice thing I really like about how Medabots Survivors did it is it is mildly forgivable. Consider it very close to the Hoyoverse games, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero. It's very, very forgivable in the fact that your pity actually builds over time between your single polls and your multi-polls. Every 10, you're guaranteed a UR rank or better. Every 50, you're guaranteed a UR rank of a specialized pickup. And at the 100th, you are guaranteed the pity model if you have not gotten it already. And the best part is that pity carries between, like, banners. So say, for instance, if a banner for, I don't know, God, Emperor, and Primary Baby comes up, and you pull 50 in there, and it closes. And then the next week, it is Shadow Armor and Medabots. Well, guess what? Those 50 you made count toward Medabots and Shadow Armor's pity. So it's mildly forgivable in that respect, and I do have to commend them for going that route. I think it's a very forgivable and a very user-friendly, very resource-friendly investment over time, especially if you're going to have several banners at once that are going to be up at the same time throughout the game. Now, despite these pros, though, and I think the game is very beginner-friendly, user-friendly, easy to learn, mildly forgivable, asterisks, but there are also notable concerns with the game as well. Going through those ever so briefly, the gacha is expensive, and unfortunately that is just kind of the point. In contrast to Medabots S, which only requires 3 for a single pull or 30 for a multi, it requires 300 diamonds, or stones as they're called, to make one draw in a gacha. And given the resources are kind of really strict and stingy on how they choose to give them out, that does make it fairly expensive overall, which kind of detracts from the whole mildly forgivable point to a degree. The boosted rates are also fairly subpar, so granted the pool will grow significantly, and it means rates will kind of go down to balance it, but every 10 you're guaranteed a UR is essentially a complete random. It could be a basic UR of somebody that's already in the pool, or it could be a completely random UR of, say, Alpha Soma or Bularis Mondi or Parallel Deuce, which is thrown in the pool also at random. And it's really hard telling which is what to kind of hype you up and then kind of deflate the balloon, so to speak. The other really big point and the big issue with it is the incessant ad usage that is littered throughout the entire game. And this one I do heavily agree on. It is really... It's actually kind of bad. It requires a lot of ads if you want to retry, if you get caught in the middle of a run and die. It requires a lot of ads if you want to collect any of the freeware stuff if you're a free-to-player. It's really heavy with the ad stuff, and I understand games have to make money and they have licensing deals and such. I get it, but there are games that do the ad thing a whole lot better and a whole lot more conservatively than Medabots Survivors does, and I feel that does need to be addressed because it is a very particular and prominent pain point with a lot of players, both casual and have been playing since launch, much like I have. There is also a very significant bottlenecking if you're going free to play, which means once you collect all the resources up to a point and the strength threshold is just far too high for you at your current level, you're kind of stuck. That means you will not be able to progress or advance any further because you're just not dealing enough damage, and a lot of stuff is going to be really bottlenecked and hard to collect on because you've already collected all the easier stuff to pick up on, and you just can't physically ascend your characters higher because you need extras of them. That is another point I will get to a point a little farther down, but that is a really big pain point to consider. The bottlenecking is pretty bad. The skill shuffle mechanic. The premise to that ultimately is if you have it and have at least one copy of it in your possession, or at least on your game's account, there is a chance it will appear in your skill shuffle when you go to do runs. Under that premise, that means the more things you have, the more likely it is that you will start seeing certain things in your shuffles when you go to reshuffle because there's nothing there that you particularly like in a run. Well, I decided to put that to the test, and with my little experiment, I chose to do, say, about 100 runs, do about 10, 20 runs, and I did 100 refreshes. And my premise to this was to prove if that premise was correct. If having a model proves and verifies that at any point in those 100 reshuffles, I would theoretically see all of my models in possession, all my characters in possession, at the minimum one each. That was the premise I was trying to prove. So ultimately, I'm going to kind of give you here the results of that, kind of going over it again. So once more, the experiment premise is to prove having the model proves it has a chance for it, even a small one, to appear in the skill shuffle during runs when you reshuffle. Now, I did actually collect parallel dues not long after I made this, so I'm not including that, but there are a couple other rules I need to provide. The first of which is, if you have the model as your primary lead, your alpha metal character, they're guaranteed to be there as your starting skill, period. So in this case, when I did this experiment, I had God Emperor as mine. So if you see here on the list under URs, there is an X next to his name. That means I had him as my primary, so he was already guaranteed to be there no matter what. And there was already going to be a chance he was going to appear in my reshuffles. But ultimately, looking through here, you'll see that I have 4 master ranks in the color red. I have 10, 14, 15, 16. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. I have 6, 12, 18, 19. I have 19 legendary ranks, gold. I have several URs, ultra ranks. I have a few super rares, a number of rares, and a handful of normals. And as you see here, if you want to kind of look through this, this is the result of 100 refreshes, excluding support skills that pop up in the reshuffle. So ultimately, one thing I do also like is the fact that during weeks that they reveal new characters, they also throw the chance to sample the trial units. So given this week is Gato Arbol and Parallel Deuce, there is also a chance they will appear in the reshuffles, and I took that into account. So I'm just going to kind of read off my final counts here and my final listings. So Gato Arbol, I only saw twice. Parallel Deuce, I only saw once. Ptolemy, I only saw 5 times. World Cup, I saw 17 times. Azuruler, I saw 13 times. Kokono Elegy, I saw 23 times. And ultimately, the most number of times I saw goes to Kokono Elegy specifically. For my LRs, Metabi, I saw none of at all. Beastmaster, I saw 16 times. Archbeetle, I saw none of at all. Warbonnet, I saw 14. Deer Stage, I saw 0. Sekizo, I saw twice. Bularis Mondi, I saw none. I didn't see any of. Rokusho, Shadow Armor, Cross Messiah, Roll Beauty, and I saw none of whatsoever. Triceratops, I saw 5 times. Cyan Dog, 4. Koga Sancho, Fancy Ale, Smilodon, Ghost Ship, Matronor, and Primary Baby, I saw 0 of. So already, the highest ranks I have here, and there is a large number of LRs I have in my possession that I did not see at all. So this already kind of calls into question that this premise is kind of not exactly to be believed. Going to my URs, it's even worse. Elphasoma, Hardness 10, Evil Rex, Spinagmanog, I saw none of. Gokudo, I saw 5 of. Coffin Bat, 7. Cheerful Bunny, once. Swimmer Mate, 4 times. Gatsudin, 3 times. Aim Flash, 4. Noir Catsi, 5. Shoot Spider, Belzelga, Morgan Roof, and Sada Shinahime, I saw none of. My super rares, my blues, I saw Health Phoenix 3 times, TP twice, Taraba Kraba once, Marine Killer 5 times, Gyrain twice, Shushu Pop none at all, Keith Turtle 3 times, Alec Bear 5 times, Leolila 3 times, and Armor Moth none at all. For my basic rares, my green color, Kanahachi Mach 3, I saw 3 times, Crimson King 5 times, Peppercat 0, none at all, Greed 5 times, Little Lacy twice, Jungarian, Pom Pom Mate, and Nepotensia 0, none at all. And then for my normals, I saw Yukitang 6 or 8 times, and Shin Saber 7 times. This, honestly, is kinda sad. I was really hoping on that premise actually being true, but needless to say, it has been debunked. It is not the case, and there are several cases where it has proven if you have it, it does not mean you're going to see it in the shuffles. Now, I can understand to a point the more you have, the lower of a chance that there's likely to see it. But in 100 reshuffles, you'd guarantee to see all of these at least once somewhere. And most of the ones that have numbers over 10 are because I had them in my party, which means they already have a boosted likelihood of dropping or showing or appearing in the reshuffles when I go in the middle of my runs. So Coconut Elegy having a total of 23 times, World Cup at 17, War Bonnet and Beastmaster at 14 and 16 are because they were in my party. Everyone else was kind of just left there and abandoned, and those were kind of the ones I was stuck with. And it honestly kind of sucks, because I would like to see those go up so that it's more enjoyable to actually play those and have a more varied experience, instead of seeing the same 5, 6, or 10 every single run no matter what. And it gets kind of boring to where if you want to change it, you have to completely reconstruct your party or change your alpha unit. But these are the results of that experiment. I am mildly disappointed by it, but I do believe that with this, there can be some changes made to improve the game's overall quality of life and user experience before the global version does drop. And I am really hoping that someone from Imagineer sees this so that they can make these changes or discuss them before the global version drops. But ultimately, for my closing thoughts, I can condense all of the problems that Medabots Survivors may possibly face in 3 problems and 3 solutions each. The first problem ultimately is, if you possess the character, there's a chance it'll appear. Well, I just proved that. It is largely inaccurate. So the solution here ultimately is to modify the likelihood in the algorithms to include everything that the player has in their possession. If you have, as you saw in mine, hardness 10, it shouldn't matter what level they're at. It should give hardness 10 a chance to appear no matter what rank you have her at UR, at LR, at MR. It shouldn't matter. If you have them, that premise should be accurate no matter what. And I think that alone would massively change how the game plays overall, so that the players can actually experience everything they have no matter what, and not be bottlenecked, like I said, to 5 or 10 specific ones no matter what every run. The second problem is, Meta Survivors Gacha requires many stones to roll, meaning there is a heavy ad reliance that is forced for consistent resource commitment. I mentioned this before. I've also spoken with a lot of Japanese friends of mine that can corroborate this as the main issue. The solution here is very simple, is just reduce the ad reliance or increase the stone distribution, one or the other. Because if you're gonna have ads, which is, it is to be expected, a free mobile game is gonna have ads. Be light on them, be gentle, be a little more conservative in the ads, or be a little more generous in your stone distribution. That way it kind of balances out and feels a little fair, because having to watch, say, 2 or 3 minutes for ads to get 5 energy back, which is 1 run, as a reminder, doesn't really seem all that fair. The third problem actually has 2 solutions, in my opinion. But the third problem, again, is quoted from a friend of mine in the Japanese community. Medarot S only requires 30 rubies for 1 multiple, and you only need 1 copy of the Medarot. Medabots Survivor, on the other hand, requires 3,000 stones for 1 multiple, and requires multiple copies if you want to ascend them to higher ranks. So you can already see the gap here between Meta S and Meta Survivor, and I get they're different games, but just follow me on this. Ultimately, I feel there are 2 solutions that I think could really fix that problem and make it feel more user-friendly and enjoyable when it comes to requiring for rolls and being able to generate that revenue. The first solution is to moderately reduce the number of stones required to roll and multi-roll. Now, I'm not saying that you have to make one roll 30 stones like Medarot S. I'm not saying that. But even cutting the number of stones required for a roll in half, say 150 for a single roll, or 200, or 100, I think is much more generous, because it'll make it a whole lot easier to access, both for free-to-plays and for the pay-to-plays. And given that it does require multiples of the same character to level up and ascend to higher ranks so that you don't bottleneck, I feel this is an extremely fair way to do it. Alternatively, if you decide, Imagineer, if you're watching this, to not reduce the number of stones required to roll, the other alternative is to create a new item in the game that you can use as a wild card. Now, in the game, this already kind of exists, because you have to use duplicates of other models to pump into a model to level it up to a higher level cap. That's already kind of given, but it does not count if you're trying to ascend them, say, from a UR rank to an LR rank. You have to have at least one duplicate of the model to ascend them, minimum. So what I'm proposing is create a brand new item that allows you to use it as a wild card to make those ascensions. I myself have at least 7 or 8, as you saw, UR plus 2s. I can't raise because I need one more dupe to do it. But if you were to implement a wildcard item that I could use, even if you make it very difficult to obtain, say a 30-day login bonus or something, that I think is still fair, because it gives players the chance to save them and use them towards things that they want to raise but can't, because duplicates are so hard to come by. I'm saying all these because I want the game to succeed. I think it's a very fun game, and I think for Medabots' first official re-debut into the West, it could be something huge, or at least the start of multiple things to come. And I want Imagineer to start off on the right foot when it comes to releasing Medabots Survivor globally, and it being very widely openly played, welcomed, and enjoyed. But ultimately, that basically covers everything. I'm going to kind of keep it short here, under 30 minutes, but that is basically just my overall thoughts with a brief summary, a brief recap of the game, the pros and the cons, my experiment with the reshuffle, improving it and debunking it, and every concern that people have with the game kind of condensed into 3 problems with 3 solutions each. So ultimately, if you'd like to know more, you can follow us, of course, on our socials, on Medabots News Network on Facebook, the Medabots Forever community, over 51,000 members on Facebook as well. Discord, link provided in the comments below to keep an even closer ear to the ground if you want to keep up to date with anything to do with Medabots or Medarot as a whole. That is the first place you will hear it. And then, of course, my socials, Twitter, Blue Sky, or Discord at Isagami Kura. I leave it very open. My DMs are open on purpose for that very reason. And if you'd like to discuss this in more detail or even ask me other questions, and I'm going to call Imagineer on this as well, I want to hear from you. I absolutely want to hear from you and speak with you on this, because I am a mouthpiece, a front runner for the Western community by and large. I want to speak with you guys and actually have a chance to communicate my thoughts and feelings and the overall feedback of the Western community you guys are getting ready to release to. So please contact me. I would love to hear from you or somebody from your company so that I can pass these feelings and these comments forward to you more confidently. Please give me that opportunity. I will be more than happy to discuss anything that you would like. But with all that being said, as I close out, as always, if you'd like to know more, you have our socials here. And as always, I do appreciate you all for stopping in, just as you always do. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for your regularly scheduled meta news coverage. That being said, this is your host, Kura Itsugami of the Medabots News Network, signing out.